Well, welcome back to Normandy with me, Patrick Hillier of WeLoveNormandy.com. You're watching Virtual D-Day, and here today we are at the Merville Battery. It's a fabulous site. It's a battlefield that has been preserved for the past 77 years. We're here at the memorial dedicated to the 9th Parachute Battalion, who stormed this position just after midnight on the 6th of June 1944. And on this huge RAF roundel in the Garden of Remembrance. I'm surrounded by so many plaques and memorials and monuments that are too many to count. We could spend all day here just looking at those, but there are lots of fabulous things to see here as well. You have the 4 casemates containing the heavy artillery weapons that the paratroopers were tasked with destroying on the night of D-Day. You have, it's so well preserved, you have the trenches, you have ammunition stores, you have the cookhouse, you have the well, you have so much to see here at the Merville Battery. Well, we're going to see all of that, and then we'll end the tour with a look at the C-47 aeroplane, the C-47 Dakota, which is again beautifully well preserved and is kept here at Mayorville. And we'll end the tour with by paying our respects to Lt Col Terence Otway, who commanded the men of the 9th Battalion here on the night of D-Day. So, without further ado, let's start the tour.
Well, yes, good evening indeed. As you can probably tell, I'm not actually coming to you live from the Merville Battery. The footage that we're using this evening I recorded just a few days ago, last week in fact, at Merville on that beautiful sunny day. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Patrick Hillier. My company We Love Normandy provides tours, transport and accommodation to people visiting this beautiful area. I've lived here for nearly 20 years. I'm a D-Day guide and a member of the Normandy Battlefield Tour Guides Association. And I've been working in tourism and hospitality here in Normandy since 2003. You're watching Virtual D-Day, and this evening or this afternoon or this morning, depending upon where you're watching from, we will be visiting the Merville Artillery Battery near Caen in Normandy. Now, I'll just explain this new format for those of you who are used to watching my virtual tours. For the remainder of the year, so this autumn and through the winter, I'll be doing this style of virtual tour where I'll be recording footage earlier in the day or perhaps a couple of days prior to the tour, and then relaying that footage to you live from We Love Normandy HQ, which is where I am now, in the heart of Normandy. And that way we will be able to do the tours a little bit later in the evening, because the daylight is fading at this time of the year. And we don't have to worry about the weather, and we shouldn't have to worry about transmission problems and the 4G signal. So this is the new format for now, probably through into the spring. If you're watching on the Facebook page, and I can see a lot of people are, so thanks for all of your greetings. You may post a comment, as many of you have done already. You can ask a question, and when I get time in between the segments, I'll try to answer any questions that I can during the broadcast. If I can't do it during the broadcast, I will come back to you afterwards. You can watch by clicking on the link on the Facebook post. You can watch this on the We Love Normandy website, and there you can use the chat facility. And if you subscribe, you can subscribe for free, and I'll make sure that you get information about forthcoming events, and I'll be talking about one event that's coming up in the near future shortly. And if you become a paid subscriber, there's a free 30-day trial. You can cancel it at any time, and you can subscribe for as little as €3. And with that, you get access to the Virtual D-Day archive. So we have 16 or so separate events in the archive that you can watch again, and you can watch again and download this episode on there. You also get access to the Zoom platoon, And the Zoom platoon is a question and answer open forum discussion platform that we do at the end of all these virtual tours. So there's a very friendly group of 15 or so people that regularly tune into the Zoom platoon. You would be very welcome to join in if you have any questions or want to discuss anything raised during the virtual broadcast, or if you just want to chat about other things, as we tend to do, including our pets. Okay, so thanks for saying hello. We've got people tuning in from the UK, from Belgium and the Netherlands, and from the United States. It's great to see so many people tuning in all over the world this evening. The tour should last about 60 minutes. We're already 7 minutes in, so I better speed up a little bit. And we'll be looking at the bunkers, the materiel, we'll see the monuments, and we'll see the fabulous C-47 Dakota transport plane, so stay tuned for that. I'll also be giving you my 3-question quiz, which I do in these studio-based tours, and please feel free to take part in the quiz. You can answer the quiz using the chat facility on the website, or you can put a comment on the Facebook page. I've realised that my dog has just joined me, and my cat, but well, I'll have to cope with that. After the show, there'll be the Zoom platoon at around about 8 o'clock French time, maybe a little later. Okay, so without further delay, let's start and see some of the fascinating things at the Merville Battery. And we begin here in the Garden of Remembrance at the 9th Parachute Battalion Monument. This monument, dedicated to the troops of the 9th Parachute Battalion. The inscription there reads, "To the memory of the 9th Battalion of the British Parachute Regiment and the forces of the Royal Navy, the Army and the Air Force. On the 6th of June at 5 AM, these assault forces silenced the battery, whose guns were aimed on the invasion beaches." There you can see the insignia of the British airborne troops, the Pegasus insignia. I think I have some pictures there. We can have a look there, zoomed in a little bit. And you can see the 9th Battalion insignia, which includes the insignia of the British Parachute Regiment. The monument's located on this enormous RAF roundel. You can see the red, white and blue. And of course it's dedicated to Lt Col Terence Otway's 9th Battalion. And there is a picture of the man himself. So from the roundel and the 9th Battalion monument, within the Garden of Remembrance, there is the Cross of Sacrifice, and we'll start the tour from the Cross of Sacrifice. Now, Brigadier James Hill, who was Otway's superior, there he is being awarded a medal by Field Marshal Montgomery. He said to Otway that he was giving him a grade A stinker of a job with the assault of the battery here. He said, "Do not be daunted if chaos reigns, because it undoubtedly will." And it was pretty prescient of James Hill, because the operation was chaotic. Of the 540 men who were given the objective of attacking the Merville Battery, only about 150 would actually assemble in the drop zone and form the assault force. Out of those, only about 80 survived the attack unscathed. Now, this Cross of Sacrifice is common in the Commonwealth War Graves Commission cemeteries. Certainly the cemeteries, I think, that have over 40 graves. So it's most normally seen in the Commonwealth cemeteries. And here it is commemorating the resting place of troops whose remains were not recovered from the Mayorville Battery. I'll close up on the inscription there. It says, "This museum is rare, for it is situated in a battlefield. The remains of British and German soldiers still lie here from June 1944. Please keep that in mind and tread respectfully as you walk over this hallowed ground. Let's say unusual to see the Cross of Sacrifice outside a Commonwealth War Graves cemetery, but you'll find one in the British cemetery in Bayeux, the Canadian cemetery in Beny-sur-Mer. As I say, in fact, every Commonwealth cemetery with more than 40 graves. So we're here at Merville to talk about Operation Tonga. Operation Tonga was part of Operation Overlord, arguably part of Operation Neptune, and it was the British 6th Airborne Division's three-pronged attack using paratroopers and glider-borne infantry troops on the night of June the 6th, or in the very early hours of the morning of June 6th, I should say. By the way, the 6th Airborne Division is one of only two British airborne divisions. It was given the number 6 to confuse the Axis planners and commanders into believing that the British had more airborne divisions than they actually did. And the operation was planned to defend the left flank of the invasion force. Now I'll just pause the video here. At the front of bunker number 1, to tell you a little bit about the operation and its objectives. As I say, it was a three-pronged operation. The first prong was to seize and control two bridges over the Caen Canal and the Orne River. That was carried out by the 6th Air Landing Brigade, and as I'm sure many of you will know, particularly D Company of the Ox and Bucks Light Infantry. The attack on Pegasus Bridge, and we'll be coming from Pegasus Bridge in a future tour very, very soon. Second prong was to destroy bridges over the River Dive. That was given to the 8th Parachute Battalion, blowing bridges on the River Dive to stop German counterattacks from coming into the lodgement area. And the third prong was to destroy this heavy artillery battery at Mayorville. Now the guns here threatened the troops arriving on Sword Beach about 8 miles away, the British 3rd Infantry Division troops, and so the 9th Parachute Battalion was given the task of silencing the guns here at Merville. The job had to be achieved by 5:30 in the morning, 0530 hours, sorry. Otherwise, the British light cruiser HMS Arethusa would open fire with her 6-inch guns, considering that the operation had been a failure. Now there were huge problems, especially at the beginning of the operation, in terms of the transport planes and the gliders. Bad weather, anti-aircraft fire, malfunctioning equipment, especially the Eureka radio beacons that were supposed to guide the transport pilots to their drop zones. A lot of this stuff failed. A lot of it's down to inexperience. The pilots were very well trained, but had very little experience. Most of the troops, or certainly many of the troops, were dropped way off course, far from their drop zones. Many actually dropped into the flooded Dive Valley and drowned. Otway's men, therefore, were, being only 150 of them, were under strength and under equipped. But Otway decided to go ahead. As he said, it was a question of move off or give up. I'm Irish and I'm a paratrooper and we never give up. And so the operation went ahead. The battery, as you can see, one of the four gun casemates here was made up of 4 concrete casemate gun enclosures. By the way, this is a recovered 12-cylinder Rolls-Royce engine from a Supermarine Spitfire fighter. This is the front opening of number 1 battery, number 1 bunker. The guns themselves were protected beneath 6 feet of concrete and steel, and the bunkers were believed to contain 4 150mm artillery pieces. The battery itself also contained or included a 20mm flak gun, 15 fixed positions for machine guns, barbed wire, minefields. There was an anti-tank ditch, and the battery was staffed and manned by a garrison of the Artillery Regiment 1716, the 1st Battery, part of the German 716th Static Infantry Division. It was commanded by Oberlieutenant Raymond Steiner. I think I've got a photograph of him here. There's the man himself, with around 130 troops. The battery was part, or the regiment was part of the German 7th Army, commanded by General Friedrich Dollmann. And I have a photograph there of Dollmann with the commandant of the battery, Raymond Steiner, a little earlier in 1944. And on another visit by the High Command to the battery, this time by General Marx, who was the commander of German 84 Corps, Steiner asked his commanding officer when the new guns, the big guns, would arrive, and he was told in the near future. That actually, on D-Day, only First World War 100mm field cannons were installed in these bunkers, not the feared 150mm. So we're up on top of bunker number 2 here, and I'll bring up a map of the invasion area so we can have a look at where we actually are. This is a map of the 2nd British Army on D-Day. You can see the British and Canadian beaches from left to right, Gold, Juno and Sword. The American landing beaches are to the left of this map, not visible on this map. And the area marked in yellow there is the drop zone, is the area containing the drop zones of the British 6th Airborne Division. And so we'll zoom in on that. Around the city of, just east of the city of Caen, you have the Orne River, the Caen Canal and the River Dive. You may just be able to make out the cross-hatching, the blue cross-hatching, which identifies the flooded areas of the River Dive. Where is it? There it is. So there are the drop zones. Drop zone V was the drop zone for the 9th Battalion attacking Merville Battery, and you may just be able to see the battery marked there towards the top of the map. And the drop zone was about 3 miles from the Mayorville Battery. The rendezvous point, as I said earlier, only about 150 troops managed to make it to the rendezvous point on time, but at just before 0300 hours, those 150 men set off with their colonel Otway, and along with only 20 Bangalore torpedoes and 1 machine gun. However, the mortars, the anti-tank weapons, the mine detectors, any vehicles and personnel like the engineers and the medics did not go with them because they had not arrived at the rendezvous point. But Otway led his troops through the southern perimeter of the gun battery complex, through the barbed wire, through the minefields, and 4 assault companies attacked the gun positions and assaulted them, but unfortunately to very, very heavy casualties. The casemates, or the gun bunkers themselves, were attacked with small arms fire, some machine gun fire, grenades and phosphorus. Now, the German defenders had actually left the steel doors of the casemates open, which may have made it slightly easier for Otway and his troops. Oberlieutenant Steiner, the commandant, was not present, but 22 German soldiers were killed during the attack, and the others surrendered. To neutralise the artillery pieces that they did find in the bunkers, the Paratroopers used gammon grenades and plastic explosives, as I say, to destroy the 4 guns. Okay. Here we are on the top of bunker number 2, and we're looking out to the northwest towards Sword Beach. You can't actually see the English Channel and the beach itself due to the vegetation on the horizon there. Excuse me. So, good to see so many people saying hi. If anybody has any questions, please send them in on the Facebook page or on the chat facility on the website. And now we'll go and have a look at bunker number 2. Now, all of these bunkers have been converted to hold the museum's exhibits, and bunker number 2 is dedicated to the 9th Parachute Battalion. But before we go in, I'm going to ask you question 1 of my 3-question quiz. And it is here, it is this. I'm looking for General Richard Gale's appropriate nickname and his middle name, which he shared with a famous British naval commander. So General Richard Gale, the commander of the 6th Airborne Division, I'm looking for his appropriate nickname and his middle name, which he shared with a famous British naval commander. So if you think you know the answer to that, please, 2-part question, do put that on the comments. Someone's already come up with a nickname, and I'll be announcing the winner the next tour we do. I'll announce the winner. The winner is the person who gets all 3 questions right the quickest. So there, a plaque dedicated to the 9th Battalion on the entrance to the bunker, and looking at some of the correct answers coming in. Very good. It looks like, Phil, you've pipped everybody to the post with both answers correct on the Facebook page. So here we see Colonel Otway's medals and beret stored here. There's the man himself wearing them, including the DSO, the Distinguished Service Order, and the French Légion d'Honneur. The DSO there on the left and the Légion d'Honneur on the right in the collection of decorations there. And the rest of the battery has lots of memorabilia about the 6th Airborne Division and the 9th Parachute Battalion, lots of photographs, and includes a photograph and an exhibit there about Lt Col and his dog Glenn, the Paradog. Glenn the Paradog and his handler Lt Col there famously took part in the battle. Let me just see, I've got a photograph there, a close-up of Glenn and Emil. Famously took part in the battle. The dogs themselves were used for flushing out the enemy, sniffing for mines, locating wounded soldiers, sending messages. Also a great boost to company morale as well. Emil and Glenn tragically were killed by friendly fire trying to reach Colonel Otway's assault force, but they were, as I say, sadly killed by friendly fire, and Lt Col was found with his dog, still holding the dog's lead. Now they are buried together in the Commonwealth Cemetery in Ronville, quite near to Pegasus Bridge. And a little anecdote concerning Glenn and his handler. According to Mark Worthington, our friend Mark, who's the director of the Pegasus Bridge Memorial Museum, we'll be going there in the very near future. This is what he said. One of one of Emile Cortes's comrades had told him. He said that the officer in charge of the burial party told Emile's fellow para, this chap called Gordon Newton, that the dog was not allowed to be buried. And at which point Gordon replied, well, he's either going in the grave with his master or you're going in with him. And apparently that sorted it out. Okay. So, just checking there how many people have answered the question correctly. Lots have, so well done. And questions 2 and 3 coming up quite soon. So from bunker number 2, we're going to go to bunker number 3. And I'll bring up a picture there of a hawser glider because the third gun position, or the bunker that has the third gun, is now converted into an exhibit focused on the hawser glider. So we'll go past some of these beach defences here. You may be familiar with these Tetrahedron beach defences, similar I suppose to the Czech hedgehogs, but known as Tetrahedrons. And we'll go inside bunker number 3. And I say, dedicated, if you like, to the crews of the airspeed hawser glider, the unpowered aircraft used to deploy so many of the airborne troops. This is a cross-section here of the cockpit. It's a troop carrier. It had a capacity of 30 troops. Over 3,600 of these gliders, the hawser gliders, were built. And the first order was placed in 1941. And the first deployment, or the first hawser glider to come off the production line, was early in 1942, and it was said at the time that the aircraft had gone from the drawing board to the air in only 10 months. Bearing in mind this thing had a wooden hull and it was assembled by furniture manufacturers, that was no mean logistical feat. Anyway, hundreds were used during Operation Overlord and during the Battle of Normandy. So if you've just tuned in, you're watching Virtual D-Day with me, Patrick Hillier, and we're at the Merville Battery, and we're just about to enter bunker number 4, or gun number 4, and to get there we have to go under this, or through this reconstructed trench. Now, if you've followed my Virtual D-Day tours before, or if you've visited the D-Day sites, you'll know that most of the trenches now, after 77 years, have been covered up. You will see vestiges of the trench systems in some places, like at Strongpoints 60 and 62 on Omaha Beach, but here at Mayorville they reconstructed them to show how they may have looked back in 1944. By the way, these things here are called PSP, perforated steel plate, or Marston mat. Let's see if I can pause that on there. There we go. Marston mat, or PSP, perforated steel plate or perforated steel plank, used to create the temporary airstrips, and sometimes to help in the deployment of vehicles on the beach. They're basically like IKEA flat pack click-clack flooring, but you could create an airfield in a very short order using this interlocking perforated steel plate. Okay, well, at that stage, before we go forward, what I'll do is probably ask you the second question in tonight's 3-question quiz. And again, if you have just joined us, You've missed the first question, but I'll be doing a recap at the end. And the first person to ask all the questions right will get a special mention in the next virtual tour. Before I ask you the question, I'm going to answer one question because I have John Stocks who's asking me, do you need to be on a tour for seeing these bunkers, or can you just visit them on your own? It's a great question, John. I should have mentioned it. The day that I filmed this, I did it at lunchtime, and now here we are in late September. The D-Day sites are not as busy as they are in the summertime, and so there was very, very few people, almost no people there. But no, it's a public museum, and I think for the very reasonable sum of, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's about €8, you have access to all of the bunker areas at the Merville Battery, or all of the areas of the Merville Battery. So thanks for your question, John. Absolutely, completely open. And many of the bunkers in the D-Day lodgement area, and indeed across the whole coast of France and other countries, many of those bunkers are just public access, and you can go and explore. So which I hope you're able to do if and when you come to Normandy. Okay, here comes the second question then. So we've looked at the Horsa glider, the Airspeed Horsa, which is a British glider. The US glider was known as the Waco glider, WACO. It carried 13 men, smaller than the British Horsa glider. Probably one of the few items of American material which was smaller or less powerful than its British counterpart, but there we go. The British had the bigger glider. What I'd like to know is, what do the initials WACO stand for? What stand for? What does Waco stand for? It's nothing to do with the Branch Davidian cult or Waco, Texas. But if you can let me know what Waco stands for, then that'll be the answer to question number 2. Okay. So this PSP, or mast and mat, leads us up to one of the guns that's kept here at the battery. Not a German gun. This is, as I'm sure many of you will recognise, this is a British 25-pounder, one of the most widely used field howitzers in the British Army. There is no German weaponry now at the Merville Battery. There's this 25-pounder and a British 5.5-inch gun as well. So we'll follow the track back down towards bunker number 4. Now, just before we talked about how the bunkers were assaulted by Otway's troops, and by 0500 hours, 80 or so of the survivors of the mission set off for the battalion's next objective. A flare from a very pistol alerted HMS Arethusa of the operation's success, and so no friendly fire shells were fired. However, the Germans reoccupied the battery, but according to the commandant, Steiner, the guns had been made inoperable and were never used in anger against the British troops. Because the Germans had reoccupied the battery, it was assaulted again the day after D-Day on June the 7th, this time by No. 3 Commando troops, but they were repulsed and with heavy casualties. And as such, the battery remained in German hands until the 17th of August, when the German troops finally withdrew. Now, we're on top of No. 4 bunker here, looking out over the battery, and No. 4 bunker is dedicated to the Piron Brigade, or Brigade Piron, which was the mostly Belgian brigade that participated finally in securing the battery on the 17th of August. I'll talk a little bit about them when we go in. So the Piron Brigade, commanded by Lieutenant General Jean-Baptiste Piron, There were 2,200 Belgian and Luxembourgeois officers and men. The brigade came under the command of the 6th Airborne Division, General Gale's division, and they participated in what was known as Operation Paddle, which was the clearing of the French coast of any remaining enemy troops in August 1944. And among other batteries of this kind, the Piron Brigade cleared the Merville Battery on August the 17th, 1944. Piron Brigade, or the 1st Belgian Brigade. Okay, so a lot of people coming in with the correct answer to what does Waco stand for. And we will make our way over to one of the open gun pits, one of the positions in which the artillery here at the battery were installed before the new casemate style gun bunkers were constructed. There you can see again some of the trench system. This is the concrete trench system that attached to the open concrete gun position. And I'm going to let my alter ego describe it to you.
So just to give you a sense of the scale of these open fixed positions, and show you the ammunition stores to the side. You can see they're still in place, along with the shell cases of some of the heavy ammunition, 100mm cannon shells. And this particular place here has another rather sinister echo of the past, right here, left in markings in the concrete, the day that this position was constructed back in 1941, and I'll show you what that looks like.
So yeah, here it is, engraved or I don't know, marked in the wet concrete. When the concrete was poured, you see the eagle of the Third Reich. There's a capital V, some laurel leaves there, and of course the Nazi swastika. And the date there is 26th of July 1941, when this open gun pit was constructed. Now, if you've watched my previous broadcast, you'll know that my German is pretty terrible, but I believe the inscription reads that Germany must live even if we die. A very chilling echo of the past there. So the gun pit's designed to hold field artillery like the 100mm cannons, but very exposed, hence the new casemate style bunkers that were being introduced in 1944, only just finished by June 1944. So I'll ask you question 3 now. I've got some good answers coming through for what Waco stands for. Let me just let me pause that there. We're descending now into the dormitory, into one of the dormitories of the complex. And here's question 3. What was the nickname that the German soldiers gave to the British paratroopers because of their maroon berets and their fierce reputation? So I'm looking for the nickname that German soldiers gave to the British paras due to their maroon berets and their fierce reputation. Okay. So, as I say, yeah, this is a dormitory, but in spite of it just being an accommodation block, it still has its own fortification. On the roof above here, there is a Tobruk, a fixed firing position, often installed with a machine gun, Tobruk, named after the coastal town in Libya where these positions were first used. As you can see, they're pretty well protected with a field of fire across the entire battery, but sticking up out of the roof of the accommodation block of the dormitory, where those troops who were not on duty would have been sleeping down below. You can see the damage there on the wall, possibly due to 50 caliber machine gun fire, maybe during the 17th of August cleanup operation. I'm not entirely sure, but certainly some fire damage to the wall of the Tobruk there. So that's one of 15 fixed positions for machine gun or small arms defence in the battery. And I think one of the unique things about the Merville Battery is that so much of the complex is still visible. Some of it's been reconstructed, but it's still visible, and it gives you a fantastic idea of the way these strong points and these resistance nests were configured. We visit a lot when we do other tours on Omaha Beach, on Utah Beach, etc. But very few are this well preserved. Well worth the extra mileage going to the very eastern end to see that. And here we are at one of the smallest bunkers, and again I'll let my alter ego explain what it is.
And here we are at one of the smallest constructions within the battery. It's another bunker, definitely one of the smallest. This one had two purposes. Its primary function, which must have been essential for the troops who were stationed here, was that of the kitchen or cookhouse. So the German soldiers' rations would have been prepared and dispensed from here. And the second function of this particular battery was to house a 20mm anti-aircraft gun or flak gun, which was perched up on the roof of the bunker. So an essential item of the battery and one of its smallest components.
Indeed, yeah, the kitchen there, a vital component, bearing in mind that an army marches on its stomach, not that the 1716 artillery were doing much marching, but yeah, an essential component of the battery. You can see some more mast and mat there leaning up against the wall of the cookhouse. So from there we will go to, oh by the way, you can see the hangar there, obviously a new construction, not part of the original battery. That's a brand new aircraft hangar purpose built to house the C-47, which we'll be seeing at the end of the tour, so stay tuned for that. And again, we're going to descend into a reconstruction of the trench system here, and we arrive at definitely the smallest bunker in the site. It's the well. It's the water well. Essential to have independent, clean water supply during a siege, for example. And remember, the battery remained in German hands until August. So we'll follow the trench system around to our next destination, which is the ammunition store. Lots of people giving me the correct answer. In fact, I don't think anybody's got a wrong answer yet tonight. For the third question, I will repeat the questions for those people who've just tuned in, and if you have, you're watching Virtual D-Day with me, Patrick Hillier. We're just about to descend into the ammunition store. You can see there an example of camouflage net, sort of camouflage that would have been used here at the battery to disguise these kind of areas. It's a subterranean construction, so you descend, I don't know, maybe 15 feet or so under the ground, and you can see how well preserved the bunker is. The original steel doors, the handles, the hinges, everything is still in place. Now this section of the battery is used as a small cinema, and there are other exhibits here. in the various ammunition stores. You see radio equipment. And there are so many, well, there are a few museums in the D-Day area that incorporate a genuine German bunker, part of the Atlantic Wall. The Landings Museum, the Museum du Débarquement at Utah Beach is built around a German bunker. But I think that Merville is the only one that has all of its exhibits housed in the original German bunkers. Really worth a trip. Please excuse me if you can hear my dog barking, or dogs. That's the other one going there. So we're going to resurface to the fresh air, and I'll recap on the 3 quiz questions as we go from here to bunker number 1, which is the only bunker the only gun emplacement that we haven't visited so far. So again, if you missed the first, second, or indeed all the questions, here they are again. I'm looking for General Richard Gale's appropriate nickname and his middle name, and the middle name he shared with a famous British naval commander. General Richard Gale, commander of the 6th Airborne Division. I want his nickname and his middle name. Question 2, the US glider, the Waco, which carried 13 men. What do the initials WACO stand for? And they do indeed stand for something. Question 3, what was the nickname that the German soldiers gave to the British paratroopers because of their maroon berets and their fierce reputation? Thank you, Phil. You're saying that the clip that was being shown in the ammunition bunker there, in the part of the bunker that's been turned into a small cinema, is from a BBC documentary, 6644. Well, I shall look out for that. Maybe that's on YouTube. If anybody can find that and post it up on the Facebook page, that'd be great. Because I did not get time to watch that on my previous visit when I was filming. So we're approaching bunker number 1. You have a plaque there in homage to the combatants of all nationalities who perished here. You see it's in English, French and German. On the roof of the bunker there you can see the ventilation ducts. There's always a complex system of ventilation in the German fixed positions, especially in the heavy artillery bunkers, because you do need to expel the gases each time the gun is fired. And here you have a plaque dedicated to number 3 Commando, who I mentioned a few minutes ago, whose troops tried to recapture the battery on the 7th and suffered very high casualties here the day after D-Day. So from here we'll go inside bunker number 1. Now the museum staff suggest that you leave bunker number 1 until the end of the tour, which I've done this evening. Inside there are artifacts and photos relating to the German occupiers, including a room dedicated to Oberlieutenant Steiner, the commandant, and there's a simulation of the assault. So we'll go and see the assault simulation, and then we'll go on to have a look at the C-24, the C-47 transport plane, the Dakota. Okay, there you can see some of the German bunks. You'll see the fixings for the bunks, the hooks from the ceiling in bunkers elsewhere, like at Pointe du Hoc, for example, but you very rarely see them with the bunks in place. You can see those potato masher grenades there. And here we have a German sentry standing guard just as the assault commences. There you can see the German scissor telescope used for periscopic observation when you're in a trench. At this stage my eardrums were starting to hurt. That, I believe, is a US 700-pound bomb, one of thousands that were dropped on the battery prior to the invasion and the assault.
Oh. I don't think I want to go back in there.
Yeah, that was more than enough. There is a warning that small children and people with claustrophobia or sensitive hearing or whatever will are dissuaded from going into bunker number one. But I'm glad I brought that to you. Okay, so from here we'll make it over to the C-47, the Snafu Special. Now, this aircraft, transport aircraft, served with the US 9th Air Force during Operation Overlord, so it's a genuine D-Day plane, including Operation Tonga. It was the C-47 for the British troops was their preferred means of transport, because the converted bombers, the Albemarle bomber, for instance, that was converted for parachute troop transport, paratrooper transport, was a plane in which they couldn't stand upright and couldn't move around in, so they preferred the C-47. And this particular one continued to serve until the end of the war. It was then sold to the Czech Air Force, and then it was sold yet again to the Yugoslavian Army sometime in the early 1970s. And it was used as a training aircraft during the Balkan War in the 1990s. It was saved by the local French association called Merville Dakota in 2007, and they managed to bring the aircraft here to the Merville Battery, where it's now housed in its purpose-built hangar. Okay. I'm just seeing we've got lots of correct answers, and people who visited the battery and have experienced the simulation. Okay, well now we're going to go and see Colonel Otway's monument. It was unveiled on the 7th of June 1997 by Colonel Otway himself and Raymond Triboulet, who was a World War II resistance fighter. I think I have some pictures here of Colonel Otway during the unveiling ceremony. Sculpted by Vivian Mallock, who also created busts of Major Howard, Montgomery and General Gale. Colonel Otway passed away on July the 23rd, 2006, and he was aged 91. For his actions at the Merville Battery and in general throughout D-Day and afterwards, Lieutenant Colonel Otway was awarded the Distinguished Service Order, and his citation reads, "For conspicuous bravery and outstanding leadership, this officer led 150 men of his battalion on the successful attack of the battery. He personally directed the attack and organised the successful cleaning up of enemy strongpoints under heavy enemy mortar and machine gun fire. His utter disregard of personal danger has been an inspiration for all his men." Well, before I wrap up and give you the quiz answers, I'll just hope that you appreciated the tour this evening. Maybe learned something new. I certainly learned a lot doing the recce for this tour and of course doing the research for it. I hope you can join us for sort of part 2 of this virtual tour of the Merville Battery, where we're going to go and visit Pegasus Bridge, the Pegasus Bridge Memorial. And oh, where's my picture gone? That's coming up in a couple of weeks' time, so stay tuned for that. So let me give you the correct, I hope the correct answers to the 3-question quiz. And here they are. So question 1, the first part. General Gale's appropriate nickname was, of course, Windy, appropriate for the commander of an airborne division. He shared his middle name with the famous British Admiral Horatio Nelson. So he was General Sir Richard Nelson Gale, Windy to his friends. Now then, this one, the question about the Waco glider caused a bit of disagreement amongst amongst some of the people tuning in. The Waco does stand for something. The Waco glider, the initials stand for the Weaver Company of Ohio. The Weaver Company of Ohio. And question number 3, what nickname did the German soldiers give to the British Paras because of their maroon berets and fierce reputation? It was, of course, the Red Devils, and I'm indebted to somebody who gave the answer in German as well. Wrote, and then you had to forgive my pronunciation, but thank you very much indeed, Phil. Wrote Turfel, the Rote Turfel. I can speak English, I can speak okay French, but yeah, my German definitely needs some work. But yeah, the Red Devils. Okay, well, thank you Joyce, thank you Andy. Before I wrap up, I'll let you know who was first to get all 3 answers right on the next tour, which will probably be from the Pegasus Bridge Memorial in Ronville. I hope you appreciated today's tour. Details of the next tours and subsequent tours will be posted on the website and on eventbrite.com. The Zoom platoon is going to start in a few minutes' time, so if you are a paid subscriber, you will find the details of the Zoom platoon on the We Love Normandy virtual D-Day page. And I look forward to seeing you there in a few minutes. If you do wish to subscribe, then click on welovenormandy.com and you can click on the subscribe button, or if you go to the virtual D-Day page, you'll see an area where you can make a contribution, which may just mean posting a TripAdvisor review or liking our page on Facebook. So anything. I'm really very grateful to all of my subscribers and my Facebook followers, and if it wasn't for your contributions, then I wouldn't be able to do these virtual tours and webinars. So thank you one and all, and I do apologise to my very important patrons, my VIPs, a list that's growing all the time. I do not actually have the list, so I shall have to thank you on social media or something. But thank you very much indeed to all my subscribers. So we'll see you the next time. But for now, from me, Patrick Hillier in beautiful Normandy, it's au revoir and à bientôt. Thank you very much indeed.